Ahmad had always been a cautious man, careful with his money and deliberate in every financial decision. Years ago, he had acquired a small stack of Iraqi dinar, largely on a whim, encouraged by a friend who had promised that the currency would one day surge in value. At first, it seemed like a harmless gamble, a small investment tucked away in the drawer of his home office. Life moved on, and the dinar sat quietly in his possession, a forgotten relic of youthful curiosity. But whispers of redenomination and hints of sudden market shifts had been circulating for months now. Social media was alive with speculation articles claiming that anyone holding onto their dinar could see significant gains, posts urging people to act fast before the opportunity vanished, videos of people exchanging currency and walking away with cash in their hands. The more Ahmad read, the more the tension inside him grew. He couldn't deny it anymore. That quiet stack of notes, once a simple curiosity, had become a source of anxiety. Would he wait too long and miss a sudden spike in value, or would he rush in, acting impulsively, and later regret his timing? The questions gnawed at him daily, creating a constant low hum of unease in the back of his mind. He found himself checking online forums during breakfast, scrolling through news feeds at work, even sneaking a glance at dinar rates before falling asleep at night. Every number he saw, every story he read, seemed to tug at him in different directions, feeding both hope and fear. One morning, as Ahmad sipped his coffee and scrolled his phone absent-mindedly, a notification popped up, a post in a local community group that immediately caught his attention. It wasn't flashy or overly dramatic, just a simple statement in bold letters. Exchange Iraqi dinar instantly, walk in and get cash today. Ahmad froze, staring at the screen as if the words themselves were alive, pulsating with promise. Could it really be that straightforward? The idea of walking into a place and leaving with cash instantly seemed almost too good to be true. But the simplicity of it, the directness, stirred something inside him, a mix of excitement, relief, and a surge of adrenaline that made his hands shake slightly as he held his phone. Ahmad's mind began racing. He pictured the scene, a neat office or bank, a teller sitting behind a counter, a stack of dinar in his hand, and in a matter of minutes, crisp bills exchanged for his long-held notes. It sounded surreal, almost cinematic, like a scene from a movie he had watched years ago but never imagined himself starring in. Yet the urge to see it for himself, to experience it firsthand, was overwhelming. He double-checked the details in the post, noting the location and hours of operation, his heart beating faster with each passing second. Today, he decided, would be the day. Ahmad quickly gathered his dinar, carefully counting each note to make sure he knew exactly how many he had. This stack felt heavier in his hands than it had before, perhaps because of the tension surrounding it or the sudden awareness of its potential. He stuffed the notes into an envelope, tucked it safely into his bag, and left his home with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. The streets seemed different today. Every passerby, every honking car, even the smell of fresh bread from the bakery around the corner felt heightened, sharper, as if the world itself had taken notice of his mission. As he approached the exchange center, Ahmad's pulse quickened. The building looked ordinary from the outside, nothing like the grand banks shown in the videos he had watched online. A simple sign indicated the name of the place, and through the glass doors, he could see people moving about, some chatting quietly, others focused on their transactions. The sight made his stomach flutter. There were people here, real people, actually exchanging their dinar. It was happening not just online or in theory, but in real life. He stepped inside, feeling a mixture of nerves and anticipation. The air smelled faintly of paper and ink, and the quiet murmur of conversation created an almost ceremonial atmosphere. Each step Ahmad took toward the counter felt deliberate, echoing slightly in the polished tile floor beneath him. The teller, a woman with a calm but focused expression, glanced up from her paperwork and offered a polite nod. Ahmad returned the gesture, suddenly acutely aware of the envelope in his hands. Around him, other people were engaged in their own exchanges, their faces a blend of concentration and anticipation. Some whispered to companions, pointing at notes and discussing rates, while others simply watched the teller's work, eyes wide with hope or apprehension. Ahmad couldn't help but feel a strange sense of camaraderie with these strangers. They were all here for the same reason, connected by the same mixture of anxiety and excitement that had driven him to this moment. When his turn finally came, Ahmad stepped forward and placed the envelope gently on the counter. The teller looked at him briefly, asked a few questions about the notes, and began counting them with methodical precision. Ahmad's heart pounded in his chest. Each flip of the notes, each movement of the teller's hands seemed to stretch time itself. Minutes felt like hours as he silently imagined the outcome. Would he walk away with more than he expected, or would the moment fall short of the dreams he had built up over years of waiting? Finally, the teller finished counting and looked up with a small, professional smile. "All set," she said, sliding a neat stack of bills toward him. Ahmad's eyes widened slightly. He had expected something tangible, but seeing the crisp, exchanged cash in front of him was a shock nonetheless. It felt real, far more real than anything he had experienced while reading posts online or watching videos. Relief washed over him in a powerful wave, coupled with a quiet exhilaration. He had done it. He had walked in, exchanged his dinar, and now held cash in his hands instantaneously, just as the post had promised. As he stepped away from the counter, Ahmad felt a lightness he hadn't known for years. The tension that had built up over countless nights, the uncertainty that had hovered over every glance at his old dinar stack, evaporated in an instant. He couldn't stop smiling, a mixture of triumph and disbelief playing across his face. Around him, the murmur of the exchange center continued, but Ahmad barely noticed. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of control, a feeling that he had turned years of waiting and anxiety into immediate, tangible results. He walked toward the exit, cash safely tucked away, and took a deep breath. Outside, the sun was bright, the city bustling as usual, yet everything felt different. Ahmad's perspective had shifted. The world seemed a little sharper, a little more alive, a little more full of possibility. That simple act of walking in and exchanging his Iraqi dinar had transformed an abstract worry into a concrete victory. For Ahmad, this was more than just a financial transaction. It was proof that action, even after years of hesitation, could lead to instant results, and that sometimes the right opportunity could arrive in the most ordinary of moments, ready for anyone bold enough to seize it. The moment Ahmad stepped closer to the counter, he realized that the atmosphere inside the exchange center was unlike anything he had imagined. It was bustling but not chaotic. There was a rhythm to the way people moved, a quiet efficiency that seemed to pulse through the room. Each transaction was a small story in itself, unfolding in real time. Hands exchanging notes, eyes darting anxiously between the teller and the cash. Murmurs of excitement and relief mixing with faint scratch of pens and the soft shuffle of paper. Ahmad could feel the energy vibrating through the air, a combination of hope, anticipation, and the nervous excitement of everyone present. He watched as a young man handed over a thick bundle of dinar to the teller. The man's hands trembled slightly, and Ahmad could see the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes flicked to the stack of cash growing on the counter. When the teller finally finished, she slid the money across, and the man's shoulders relaxed in an almost audible sigh. He clutched the bills close to his chest, a grin spreading across his face, and whispered something to the person next to him, likely a friend or family member. Ahmad felt a strange mixture of relief and envy, relief that someone else had successfully completed the exchange, envy at the ease with which it seemed to happen. When it was finally Ahmad's turn, he stepped forward, trying to steady his nerves. The envelope containing his dinar felt unusually heavy in his hands, as though it contained not just paper currency, but years of worry, anticipation, and hope. He placed it gently on the counter, aware of every movement, every subtle sound in the room. The teller, a woman with a calm, professional demeanor, glanced up at him and nodded. Her eyes held a sense of familiarity with the process, a silent reassurance that he was in the right place, that this transaction, though monumental to him, was routine for her. "Good morning," she said, her voice steady and precise. "Are these all Iraqi dinar?" Ahmad nodded, his throat tight with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The teller began sorting through the notes with careful hands, counting and verifying each bill. Ahmad watched every movement, every slight adjustment, every flip of the notes. Time seemed to stretch in these moments, as though the world had slowed down just for him. He could hear the faint rustle of paper, the soft click of the teller's pen, the subtle hum of the air conditioning. Every sound heightened his awareness, made the moment feel almost sacred. Around him, other clients were finishing their transactions, some exchanging friendly words with the tellers, others retreating quietly, cash in hand, faces glowing with satisfaction. Ahmad's attention, however, was entirely on his own exchange. He had imagined this moment countless times, rehearsed it in his mind during idle evenings and restless nights. Yet now that it was happening, it felt both surreal and tangible, a convergence of anticipation and reality. The teller paused for a moment, verifying the notes against a ledger, her eyes scanning each page with meticulous care. Ahmed held his breath, the seconds stretching long and taut. He felt a flicker of doubt. What if something was wrong? What if the notes were not accepted? What if he had miscalculated the amount? But the woman's expression remained calm, neutral, and professional, giving him the faintest hint of reassurance that everything was proceeding correctly. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she looked up at him with a small smile. "All verified," she said simply, sliding a neat stack of cash across the counter toward him. Ahmed's eyes widened involuntarily. The money looked tangible, real, almost impossibly so. It was crisp and clean, stacked neatly, each bill a testament to the successful completion of a process he had waited for years to experience. Relief surged through him in a powerful wave, washing away weeks of worry, months of uncertainty, and even years of silent hope. He could feel his muscles relaxing, the tension in his chest dissipating as he reached out and took the cash into his hands. Ahmad turned the bills over, counting them quickly, checking them with almost obsessive care. Everything matched perfectly. The numbers he had imagined in his mind now existed in physical form, tangible and real. He felt a thrill that was difficult to describe, a combination of accomplishment, relief, and exhilaration. It was as if time itself had folded, compressing years of anticipation into a single, electrifying moment. He couldn't stop smiling, the corners of his mouth lifting involuntarily as a sense of triumph settled deep within him. As he stood there, taking a breath and absorbing the enormity of the moment, Ahmad realized he was not alone in his experience. Others nearby were celebrating in small ways, a nod, a quiet laugh, a brief word of gratitude to the teller. He watched a middle-aged woman gently clasp her bills to her chest, her eyes glistening with relief, and a young couple sharing a quiet smile as they walked away with their cash. Ahmad felt connected to all of them in that moment, strangers bound by a shared experience, a common thread of hope, risk, and reward. He paused for a moment to observe the teller. She moved with calm efficiency, processing each exchange with practiced precision. Ahmed realized that for her, this was just another day at work, routine and orderly, yet for him and the others it was transformative. The contrast struck him sharply, the ordinary becoming extraordinary through the lens of personal significance. Each person walking away with cash carried a story, a history, a journey of decisions and hopes culminating in that instant. Finally, Ahmad stepped back, cash in hand, and allowed himself to breathe fully. The tension that had gripped him for so long seemed to evaporate entirely, replaced by a lightness and clarity he hadn't known in years. He could feel the weight of anticipation lifting from his shoulders, replaced by the tangible reality of achievement. The experience had been immediate, almost shockingly so, yet it carried the gravity of all the waiting, worrying, and planning that had led him to this counter. Outside the counter, the room continued to hum with life, people exchanging currency, moving through their own moments of hope and reward. Ahmed stood quietly for a few seconds, absorbing the energy, feeling the pulse of the place and understanding in a subtle, almost spiritual way, that he had participated in something larger than Himself, it wasn't just an exchange of currency, it was a transformation of expectation into reality, of uncertainty into concrete achievement. With the cash securely tucked into his bag, Ahmed moved toward the exit, taking a moment to glance back at the teller, silently thanking her for facilitating this life-changing moment. The experience had been seamless, almost magical, yet grounded in reality, the perfect balance of anticipation, action, and reward. As he stepped through the doors, sunlight hit his face, warm and bright, and the city outside seemed imbued with new possibilities. Every passerby, every honking car, every fragment of life felt sharper, clearer, more alive. Ahmed realized that the act of exchanging his dinar had not only given him cash, but had shifted his perspective, transforming an abstract worry into immediate, tangible success. The memory of that moment, the sound of the teller's calm voice, the feel of the crisp bills in his hands, would stay with him forever. It was a moment of clarity, a moment where preparation met opportunity, and he had seized it. As he walked away, Ahmed felt a quiet pride and an exhilarating sense of control, knowing that he had turned years of hesitation into a simple, decisive action, and that, in doing so, he had changed the trajectory of his financial life in an instant. Ahmed stepped out of the exchange center with his cash safely tucked into his bag. And for the first time in years, he felt a lightness that had nothing to do with money itself. It was the weight of uncertainty that had lifted, the constant tension that had followed him for months finally dissolving into a sense of relief and empowerment. As he walked down the bustling city street, the sun warming his face, the ordinary world around him seemed charged with a subtle energy. Every passerby, every vehicle, every storefront felt more vivid, more alive, as though the city itself had become sharper, clearer, a reflection of his newfound clarity. He noticed people moving through their day, some caught in the rush of errands, some chatting with friends, but Ahmed felt distinctly separate from their routines. For him, the world had shifted in a profound yet quiet way. He replayed the moments inside the exchange center in his mind, the anticipatory walk to the counter, the careful counting of his dinar, the hum of activity around him, and the precise, professional movements of the teller. Every detail, every sound, every subtle glance became etched in his memory as a marker of this pivotal moment. It wasn't just the cash. It was the experience, the culmination of anticipation, preparation, and action converging into one instant that had the power to transform his outlook on life. As he navigated through the crowd, Ahmed noticed other people leaving the exchange center, some still smiling, others clutching their money with a mix of disbelief and satisfaction. He could feel the energy of the place radiating out into the streets, the excitement almost palpable in the air. For a fleeting moment, he imagined the countless stories behind each exchange, a student paying tuition, a family securing funds for daily needs, an elderly person finally turning years of careful saving into tangible reward. Each transaction carried its own weight, its own significance, and Ahmed realized he was now part of that larger narrative, a silent participant in a collective experience of hope, risk, and reward. Ahmed's mind wandered to the decisions that had brought him here. He thought about the years he had hesitated, watching the dinar sit in his drawer while rumors and speculation swirled online. He remembered the restless nights, the anxious scrolling through forums, the backhand, forth arguments with himself over whether to act or wait. Now, all of that indecision had been replaced by immediate action and a tangible result. It was a lesson he could feel in every step he took, a reminder that hesitation, while understandable, could never replace the power of decisive action when the right opportunity arrived. He found a quiet corner on a nearby bench, away from the throng of people, and carefully counted the cash again. It felt surreal in his hands, crisp and real, more solid than he had imagined. The numbers aligned perfectly with his expectations, but the emotional impact went far beyond the arithmetic. Ahmed realized that what he held wasn't just currency. It was a symbol of his ability to act, to navigate uncertainty, and to convert long-held anxiety into immediate empowerment. The weight of the notes in his hands was nothing compared to the weight lifted from his shoulders, the mental clarity he now experienced, and the sense of accomplishment that coursed through him. While Ahmad sat there, he noticed a group of young men a few benches away, animatedly discussing their own experiences with currency exchange. One of them held a thick stack of bills, showing it to the others with a grin, and they laughed together, celebrating the tangible results of a process that had once seemed abstract and distant. Ahmad felt a quiet kinship with them, strangers yet united by a shared understanding. Each person walking away with cash carried not just money but the fulfillment of a journey, a story of hope, patience, and timely action. It struck Ahmad that money, in this moment, was secondary to the experience itself. The transformation from anticipation to reality, from uncertainty to empowerment. He thought about the conversations he would have with family and friends later. They would want to know how he had done it, how he had navigated the process, and how quickly it had happened. Ahmad realized that sharing this experience could not only help others secure their own exchanges, but also give them a glimpse into the emotional journey behind the numbers, the nervous excitement, the cautious hope, the eventual relief and joy. This thought made him smile again, imagining the ripple effect of one successful, straightforward action spreading out into the lives of those around him. The sun was higher now, casting warm, golden light across the street, and Ahmad felt the quiet satisfaction of a job completed. There was a sense of permanence in what had happened, a tangible reassurance that some decisions, when made decisively and wisely, could yield immediate and meaningful results. He thought about the years he had waited, the speculation he had endured, and the fleeting moments of doubt that had once seemed insurmountable. Now, all of that felt distant, replaced by the tangible reality of cash in his hands and the quiet confidence that came from seeing his plans succeed in the real world. As he stood to leave, Ahmad looked back at the exchange center one last time. He saw people continuing their transactions, faces filled with relief, joy, or disbelief, each carrying their own story of anticipation turned into reality. He realized that this simple act, walking in, exchanging dinar, and walking out with cash, was more than a financial transaction. It was a transformative moment, a reminder that preparation, patience, and timely action could create immediate, life-changing results. It was proof that opportunities, when seized with clarity and courage, could turn uncertainty into empowerment in the span of a single visit. Walking down the street toward his home, Ahmad felt a deep sense of contentment. The city hummed around him, familiar yet somehow renewed, every detail sharper and more vivid, every interaction infused with possibility. He thought about what he could do with the money, the small decisions it enabled, and the reassurance it provided. More importantly, he thought about the newfound confidence he carried, the knowledge that he had acted decisively when the opportunity arrived and that the results were real, tangible, and immediate. By the time Ahmad reached his apartment, he felt transformed. It wasn't the cash alone that mattered. It was the experience, the journey from uncertainty to clarity, from hesitation to action. Sitting down at his desk, he carefully placed the bills into a drawer, not as a token of caution, but as a reminder of what was possible when preparation met opportunity. That single moment at the exchange center had given him more than money. It had given him a sense of control, a renewed perspective, and the quiet knowledge that, when the right opportunity came, he was ready to act, confident in the power of decisive, immediate action. Even as evening fell and the city lights began to flicker on, Ahmad couldn't stop smiling. The experience lingered in his mind, vivid and lasting, a story of anticipation, action, and reward that he would carry with him forever. He had walked in uncertain, anxious, and hesitant, and he had walked out empowered, confident, and in possession of immediate, tangible results. The transformation was subtle yet profound, a quiet victory that resonated far beyond the cash itself, shaping not just his finances but his outlook, his decisions, and his belief in the power of timely action and courage.